Senator Amy Klobuchar didn't just question Pam Bondi, she exposed the moral decay threatening America's justice system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who later became the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg, gave an address in 1940 when he was Attorney General, and it was titled Federal Prosecutor. He said, while the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst. Unfortunately, President Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey, a prosecution which was rejected by a career Republican prosecutor who had looked at the facts and looked at the evidence for months. In a country devoted to the rule of law, it is simply unconscionable for the president to direct the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions against the recommendations of a career prosecutor. Maybe you think this is small. Maybe you all know that Comey will win this case, as he said himself, bring it on, go to trial. But to me, it is much deeper than that. Donald Trump posted on social media, and the whole world saw his instructions to the Attorney General to go after his perceived political enemies, including the former director of the FBI, who, by the way, was a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, served a number of positions under Republicans, was my law school classmate, so I know a little bit about his politics. He ordered the Justice Department to go after the sitting Attorney General in the state of New York, and he even ordered the entire Justice Department to go after a member of this committee. And if that is not chilling to my colleagues and they don't care about this, I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. How can I get that done? Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor and conservative commentator, also said that this was a vindictive indictment, incomprehensible, and a mess. You know, I was a prosecutor for 8 years, ran a sizable office, and people would call, hey, don't go after that kid. Oftentimes the kid would be like 35 years old. And not once did I ever go to the career prosecutor and say, get rid of that case, don't do that, oh, have less of a sentence. Because when you cross that line, because you have had that kind of political pressure put on you, you can't go back. You can't go back. You took an oath to represent the government, the people, whether it's a state, whether it is the country, and not to represent, in this case, the president. And this is not happening in a vacuum. At the same time, the president directs investigations and prosecutions of his perceived enemies. He gives pardons to and rewards his friends. The administration reportedly shut down an investigation into border czar Tom Homan for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe. The president pardoned January 6 insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in this very building. And he pressured prosecutors to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams. It was Hayden Scotton who was the career prosecutor in that case, someone who had clerked for Justice Roberts and then Judge Kavanaugh. And he said this when he was asked to do the dirty work. He wouldn't do the corrupt work. He said, "You will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me." That's what this is about. And all of us, elected by our states, have to look in our own conscience and think, is this going to be me? Am I going to go along with this, or am I going to say something about it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very.
This moment between Senator Amy Klobuchar and former Attorney General Pam Bondi isn't just a political clash. It's a reckoning with the very idea of what justice means in America. Here, Klobuchar invokes the legacy of Robert Jackson, a man who prosecuted Nazi war criminals after serving as U.S. Attorney General, to remind the country that the power of prosecution is sacred, not political. When she quotes Jackson's warning that a prosecutor acting from malice or other base motives can become one of the worst forces in society, she's speaking to something deeper than partisanship. She's pointing to the moral foundation of the rule of law itself, the idea that justice must be blind, even when it's inconvenient, even when it challenges the powerful. Then Klobuchar turns her sights on former President Trump, accusing him of crossing one of the most dangerous lines a leader can cross, using the Justice Department as a personal weapon. She recounts how Trump allegedly pressured prosecutors to go after James Comey, even after a career Republican prosecutor declined to bring charges, calling it unconscionable and a direct assault on judicial independence. What makes this moment even more chilling is Klobuchar's reminder that Trump also demanded investigations into his political rivals, including state attorneys general and even members of Congress. That's not oversight. That's authoritarian behavior cloaked in legal process. And then comes the powerful twist. She brings Pam Bondi's own words back to the table. Politics will not play a part in our decisions. Klobuchar holds that quote up like a mirror, forcing Bondi and the entire Justice Department to confront whether they still believe those words mean anything. She's not just criticizing hypocrisy, she's exposing the erosion of trust in America's legal institutions. Because when justice becomes selective, when prosecutions depend on loyalty rather than law, the entire democratic framework begins to rot from within. Her argument is more than emotional, it's constitutional. She's warning that once prosecutors begin to act out of fear or favor, the legal system ceases to serve the people, and instead serves power. That's why she quotes conservative voices like Ty Cobb and Andrew McCarthy, to show that this isn't a partisan issue. It's about preserving the soul of American justice from becoming a political tool. Klobuchar ends with a challenge, not just to Bondi, not just to Trump's appointees, but to everyone in public office. What will you do when you're asked to cross the line? Will you stand for justice or for power? It's a moment that transcends party politics and forces us all to think about what kind of country we want to live in, one governed by laws or by loyalty. If there's one takeaway from this exchange, it's that defending the rule of law isn't a passive act. It requires courage, especially when power tries to bend justice to its will. Subscribe to Left Lens for more fearless breakdowns and political analysis that dive deeper than the headlines, where we hold power accountable and unpack the truth behind every exchange that shapes our democracy.